second album for Godsnake, who present well-muscled and highly inspired heavy thrash metal. The effective melody they spread throughout this album is immediately evident in the first song, The Sickening. It doesn't leave your head for a long time, which doesn't stop them from unleashing worthy contenders as we progress through the lineup. Story of a Ghost is one of the most immediate and furious songs, and also one of our favorites, which goes against the album's tendency to focus on groove and mid-tempo, a trend that doesn't stop this album from having dynamics that heavy metal fans will appreciate, especially in songs like I Fear Nothing. Thrash metal fans not so much, as the ground covered by the album goes well beyond what the genre normally presents. Overall, it's a good metal album with the intensity and melody to stand out.
This artwork cover is problematic. The mix of graphic elements doesn't work in the best way, and it also doesn't get us excited about the music it contains. Which is a shame, since Savage Grace, despite all their problems, advances, and setbacks over the years, are back on the scene almost 30 years later. It's still an achievement, even if it only features one original member. Master of Disguise is one of those pearls of the underground, which also had a bad taste in covers that we continue to visit today, and Sign of the Cross doesn't stray too far from it, which can be both good and bad. The sound aesthetic is confusing, with production that is neither organic nor modern, but the songs themselves are powerful heavy metal meshes that are easy to immerse yourself in. And then the voice chosen, Gabriel Colon, has a strong timbre that takes us back to classic heavy metal. Overall, despite all the less positive points, this is a recommended album for heavy metal fans.
There's no doubting Spinda Records' eye or ear for great psychedelic rock albums and bands, or simply for unusual sounds. In fact, the very description of this band's sound, experimental post-everything electronic analogic mystery rock band from Madrid, is brilliant and hits the nail on the head. You could think of it as an independent movie soundtrack or even a choice to appear in any Tarantino film. Practically instrumental, it's the music that speaks loudest because of the way it lulls us in ways we thought impossible. It's recommended for fans of psych rock, but above all for those who like rock, and you'll find that despite the initial strangeness, this factor isn't even important enough to prevent you from enjoying a great album. Loma Baja, a name to keep in mind.
It's an ambitious project, something you can tell from reading the press release, which describes it as a fusion of progressive, symphonic, post-rock, new age, hip-hop, jazz in the midst of rock and metal, and with a soundtrack feel. Discounting the exaggerations, since there are supposed to be exaggerations in any self-respecting press release, what we have doesn't even deviate much from the description, especially in terms of the soundtrack. There are some incursions, some fleeting, others very subtle, into jazz, hip-hop, and new age, but these are not defining elements. For fans of progressive music and some of Devin Townsend's more restrained and melodic work, Max Enix's work is recommended. Oh, before I forget, Max Enix is a songwriter, singer, actor, and producer, and throughout these 2.5 hours of music he shows off all his enormous talent in a triple album that is a real treasure trove of progressive music.
Mixed expectations for this EP from Inhuman Condition. On the one hand, their debut Rat God was one of our favorite death metal albums of 2021. On the other, Fear 6 sounded uninspired and failed to live up to what we thought it would be. We can say that Panic Prayer is somewhere in the middle. At times it manages to recapture the enthusiasm we felt when we heard Rat God, but at others it doesn't seem to get beyond the doldrums. There's even a track, Final Credits, that seems to mix both feelings. In the end, it's too short to see what the band's creative future will be like, since we only have 3 original songs, a cover, excellent, by the way, of Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla, and 4 live tracks, the first 2 from each of the albums, with rotten sound quality. The balance is positive. Let's hope we hear more soon.
Combination of metalcore, or modern metal, and progressive metal doesn't always work out for the best. Or at least in a memorable way. This very fine balance is not within everyone's reach, not least because it's not enough to have genty-sounding guitars to be considered progressive. Stellar circuits, on the other hand, end up challenging our conception of things. They have that sound, they have the technical values that don't overpower the music, but they don't sound like just another band, despite many similarities. This sense of individuality doesn't necessarily make them progressive, but it does make us look at them with different ears, and this sight to sound sounds refreshing for anyone looking for accessible yet challenging modern music.
A new release from Svetlanas, the band once dubbed the most dangerous band in the world. Exaggerations aside, their punk rock remains as deliciously addictive as ever, and here we have 5 more tracks to reinforce that. Uncompromising, gritty punk rock that isn't bound by formulas and fashions, and brings a very refreshing feel to the genre, as has been their wont. The presence of Nick Oliveri ensures that the range is a little wider, but if we lived in a just world, the music would be enough for that.
Moran Magal needs no introduction, both for her solo career and for her participation in bands and projects with names like WormHoleDeath, Orphanland, and Tanswat. Time Prisoner is her 5th album and manages to have a positive impact right from the start. With a bass in gothic metal, the vocalist, composer, and musician touches on other fields, namely symphonic and folk, with no real barriers between them and everything sounding cohesive. Something that is not available to everyone. For aficionados of the aforementioned styles, not only is her work a must-see, but this is an album you should remember from 2023.